All right, guys, this is very exciting. Our next guest prepares Sean O'Malley as their journey enters its highest and most exciting chapter, fighting for the UFC bantamweight title. The long-awaited title shot, man. The man standing in the way will be the champion, Aljamain Sterling, one of the toughest challengers in the sport. And here he is joining us right now, the one and only Tim Welch, Red Hawk himself. Dude, thank you so much for jumping on, helping us preview the fight, man.
Yeah, no problem at all, guys.
So yeah, Casper kind of mentioned it, Tim, but like this has been a big journey. You guys have had an unbelievable, historic, and epic run, and this has been a long time coming, right? Like I know you would have pictured it and discussed it plenty of times with Sean before, as you guys were coming up, as you guys were starting out. This point of fighting for the title and this big main event. But I got to ask, like, what's it feel like being in a championship fight week? Well, it's championship fight week here in Australia. We're one day ahead of you. But what's it feel like actually entering the fight week for the big championship fight in real life now?
I mean, it's pretty nerve-wracking, and I think it's so nerve-wracking just because of the challenge ahead. I mean, Aljo is so just strong, and he's so funky on the feet, and when he grabs a hold of you, it's a nightmare. So it's a little bit more nerves than usual, because of Aljo is such a beast. But it's a big cage, five-minute rounds, planning on just focusing on what we can control and enjoying fight week.
I appreciate you saying that, because I feel like you're candid right from the jump. A lot of people will sometimes be like, oh, yeah, everything's good, this and that. But the fact that you admit that there are some nerves, I like that, man. How do you guys kind of like navigate that as well? And like, is there a part of you, I mean, obviously being nervous is not the most ideal scenario, but do you kind of also like steer into it as well? Like, hey, man, this is living, this is life, kind of makes you feel alive a little bit.
Yeah, I think the nerves are going to bring out the best in Sugar. The bigger the stage and the more pressure and the more chaotic it is, the more comfortable it is for Sean. Yeah, but for me, it's just going to be a challenge. The whole fight camp has been a challenge. It's been a long fight camp with a lot of just hard, grueling training, and then it all comes down to just that moment, that night, that 25 minutes in the octagon. So we haven't prepared the best we can right now, and it's going to be up to him. Just go get it done.
What was the most challenging part of the camp?
Probably just the extra rounds, because he has a good way of, when he starts a fight, it's a sprint from start to finish, and he starts that pace and keeps that pace for 15 minutes, and it's a hard, grueling pace. You saw it versus Peter Yan. But to add another 2 rounds on top of it, you got to change the pacing up a little bit, but also you got to match Aljo's pace, because we know he's going to sprint right at us and try to take us out just like he did Corey Sandhagen. So we're ready to match that pace.
Yeah, the other thing is like, as far as on the line, it's just like you and Sean, you guys are basically like brothers, right? So like a win or a loss, it must feel even more crazy. When do you guys actually sort of give yourselves permission to like feel anything and like like let the emotions sort of come through, so to speak?
When it comes to the fight, we've been at it now together for about 10 years, so we're pretty stuck on our routines and what we like to do. But there's always going to be more pressure and pressure. It's hard to just sit down and appreciate wins, because there's just a huge challenge next. And now that he's fighting for the title, every fight after this is going to be one of the best guys on planet Earth. So there's no really time to just chill and enjoy it. Maybe we will for like a week or so after, but then we really have to get to work if we want to stay at the top.
Here's the thing, right? So you guys aren't just fighting for the title, but you kind of took the world by storm and made sure Sean's deal was right before you progressed up the rankings. You set a precedent for a lot of fighters coming into the UFC to get a fair deal and not sort of get rushed along too quickly and get paid what they're worth. And you kind of changed things up as well, because outside of fighting you and Tim, you almost set up almost kind of like, this whole media, the podcasts, the everything that you do outside of the sport. And in a lot of ways, you were the first to do it. So you're at this title shot now, but in a lot of ways, a lot of people would have just rushed straight to the title shot. You guys took your time and did it properly. And I wanted to ask you, man, because I've been thinking about this leading into the interview. How does that feel for you? Does that make it any sweeter for you, knowing that you kind of did it the way that you guys wanted to?
Yeah, it really does. But there was a lot of luck involved, but a lot of luck that we were prepared for, and we've been working hard for a lot of years. People just see what's on social media and see us messing around and goofing around, but really our lives are pretty boring. We just train and go home and hang out, and then train and go home and hang out. That's pretty much what we do all the time. And sometimes there's some stuff on social media that goes out there, but really our lives are pretty boring. I kind of got away from the question. Sorry.
If it makes it any sweeter for you, man, because a lot of, look, 90% of people coming into the UFC are like, we'll take the title shot whenever we can. And you and Sean are like, let's take our time and do it properly here.
Yeah, I think the UFC knows too. The UFC's, they're experts in matchmaking. Those matchmakers know what they're doing. And they saw Sean, how young he was and how undeveloped even his body was. And they let his body develop, let him grow as a man, let him get more comfortable, let him get a lot of cage time. The UFC knows what they're doing also, but it's also Sean. He's the one that goes out there and performs. He's the one that goes out there and one-shots these people. Without him knocking people out with one shot, none of this would be here. So it's really him being such a great athlete and going to make it happen every time he steps in there.
What's something you mentioned? You guys kind of live boring lives, and people don't really realize what really goes on. They just look at the social media stuff. What was the biggest hurdle? What was something along the journey that people may not realize that you guys had to overcome to get to this point?
Well, once you start winning and especially start knocking people out, and then he's got colorful hair, he's got all his tattoos, he's this crazy personality. Everyone wants to hang out with you. Everyone wants to give you a table at the club. All the hot girls want to hang out. Everyone wants to give you some drugs, and you just want to have a hell of a time. And you very easily could take the Johnny Manziel route. And you have a bunch of money, you turn into a star, and the partying's just so fun. But I think having a baby really helped Sean dial it in, because he really wants to be a good dad, and that was really a blessing in disguise.
You know, I agree with you 100%, man. It's something that like you can kind of picture and imagine, but until you're actually living that kind of life, I feel like it's something that no one can really prepare you for. It's like Israel said this, I think, on the Joe Rogan podcast, like nobody teaches you how to be famous, right? There's no school. I can only imagine how crazy it would have been for you guys, just like learning those things and learning from like certain mistakes or, you know, whatever the case was. But you guys still had like a really good time. But yeah, I got to say, a lot of respect for you guys to be able to sort of rein it in and do it in a smart way.
Yeah, I mean, always we know what he's capable of, and we just want to see actually how good he can get. And we've read a lot of books throughout like our careers, and read a lot of books about top performers and how they perform and how they train and how they live their life. So we know what it's going to take. And the girls, the drugs and the partying is sitting there always trying to tease you, but we know what it's going to take, and we really want to see how good we can make Sean and how big of a star we can actually make him.
I gotta also ask, man, I saw last week you tweeted a good chance Sugar KO's Aljo next week. And not like you weren't mincing any words. It was a basic, simple, to the point tweet. But I want to find out what made you want to sort of put that out in that moment right there on Twitter or X or whatever they call it in that moment and let everybody know.
It was probably after a training session, just seeing how dialed in he is with his timing and how fast and accurate he is. And everyone's game plan against Sean has been pin him against the cage and try to take him down. And you see very good guys trying to stalk him, and it's way harder than they think. But I think Aljo is such a good athlete. He's so funky that he's going to take risks, and he's going to try to grab Sean. He's going to take a big risk. And that's also going to be able to open up the knockout for us. Like I said, Sean can knock people out with every one of his limbs. So if he lunges in at the wrong time, and he could get some knuckles bounced off his chin, and it could be the end of the night. So I think I tweeted that after a workout when Sean's feeling really, really sharp and just hitting so hard.
Do you recall like the first time when you believe, you know what, Sean can be not only world champion, but specifically beat Aljo?
Yeah, there's never been a time. I don't know if he can beat Aljo. I think he can, and we've prepared for that, but we're going to find out the real answer on Saturday. There was never really a time. We knew the title shot was coming eventually. How he's putting these people's lights out, we knew if we got through Peter Yan, we're fighting for the title no matter who it was. But still, I don't know if he's going to beat Aljo. He definitely could. He definitely could. There's a good chance that he knocks him out cold, but I don't know 100%. But like I said, he's a good athlete and he's very disciplined with his routines and he has good coaches. I don't have to call him and say, "Hey, bro, we need to get to the training session. We need to get here." He's there half an hour early every single training session. He's one of the hardest workers and most disciplined people I've ever met, and he's a great athlete behind it. So we're gonna find out.
Can I just say to him, like, your candor is refreshing. You know what I mean? Like in a sport where there's so many kind of cookie cutter answers. I love how honest you are and just saying like, look, I don't know if you can beat him, but we're gonna do our best. Like, why are you so honest? What makes you different from so many other people, man? Like you just really, I don't know. You definitely don't fit the mold, so to speak, in the best way possible.
Yeah, maybe sometimes I'm a little too honest, but I think
I love it.
the internet, because I have my podcast and I have my YouTube and stuff, and the internet can point out better than anyone when people are fake or trying to act a certain way. So we do, like I said, we're on the internet a lot, so I just try to be honest the most I can. I think it's just the best way to do it.
I think one of the things as well is, I don't know, I don't think you're doing it deliberately, but it's also a case of, hey, we got to be ready for this guy, and this guy is dangerous, and we're not taking this guy lightly. And it's a good mindset to take against a champion like Aljo. I wonder, obviously you hold him in high regard. Is he the greatest bantamweight champion of all time and the most difficult challenge in the division?
I really do think he's the greatest bantamweight of all time, and people debate that, saying Dominic Cruz is and stuff. But you look at his resume. Okay, you got to take out the fact that TJ was hurt, because that was no one's fault but TJ's that he stepped in there. And how good Corey Sandhagen is. He's so good, skilled, and Aljo took him out under a minute. And then how big of a beast and how confident Henry Cejudo is. Explosive boxer, Olympic champion, just a beast of an athlete and one of the best competitors out there. And then Aljo beats him also. So I think it's pretty easy to say Aljo is the best bantamweight there's ever been right now.
Depending on what happens this weekend, Aljo might lose and then decide to move up to a different division. We're not sure if his future will be in bantamweight. He's spoken about the fact that he wants to fight Alex Volkanovski. I just want to quickly get a gauge from you on that fight, because that's a huge fight, him versus Volko, but it's in a different division. I know you hold Aljo in high regard. How do you see a potential fight between him and Volkanovski going if Aljo does decide to move on, if, say, he loses this weekend and go to featherweight?
I truly think Volkanovski is pound for pound the best fighter on earth right now. So as good as Aljo is, as strong as he is, as good of a grappler as he is, I think Volkanovski would batter Aljo.
Okay, you're seeing, because it's an interesting one as well, because, and the reason why I get excited thinking about it is the way you've described Aljo, one of the best bantamweight champions of all time, but then Volkanovski, one of the best featherweight champions, the best featherweight of all champion of all time. So you got two goats going up against each other, so that makes a lot of sense. I got to ask you as well, man. Like, obviously, throughout this week, this media week, people are going to be asking you, how are you guys going to deal with Aljo's wrestling? How are you going to deal with his excellent back control? How are you guys going to deal with his excellent grappling? But what I want to find out from you is, do you believe we'll see Aljamain try to take on Sean on the feet first before really trying to get this to the ground? Or do you believe that he's going to try and get it to the ground right away to try and avoid that risk?
Yeah, I think especially once he feels something buzz by his face or crack him a little bit, he's gonna be diving at Sean's legs. I think he's gonna sprint right at him, try to cut him off, and then put him against the fence and take him down. But I mean, he's so funky. You see some of his takedowns against the fence. They're such good entries. There's not even a spot to crack him. When he pins people on the fence and he's punching, and he's probably going to shoot in a second. He's so good at punching and getting into entry. There's not even room for him to get KO'd. So I definitely think that's his plan. Especially when we're in the open, he's probably going to stand about 3-4 feet away, throw some stupid stuff, and try to get Sean to overcommit, and then drop down into a double leg. For sure, the longer it's on the feet, the higher the chance is that Sean's going to KO him.
From an analysis perspective, what do you think Henry Cejudo got wrong or underestimated when he fought Aljo?
That's a good question, because it seemed like he did fight a good fight. I think in that front headlock position, there was probably more ways that he could threaten him, or there's more ways that he could damage him instead of letting Aljo just hang out in that front headlock position. But like I said, that fight, it was really close. So he did have a good game plan. I'd have to rewatch it again to answer that question.
Yeah, that's fair. Speaking of close, hey, if you guys want a close shave, nothing better than our good friends at Manscaped with the Beard Hedger Pro, the best grooming tool for your face at the moment. Man, I gotta say, I love this sweet rotary zoom wheel with 20 precision length settings for a custom length trim. As I've said a million times now, I love having the side of my face a little bit shorter, the bottom just a tiny bit longer, and you've got 20 length settings. I don't know what kind of beards you guys have, but with 20 different settings, and they're attached. They're on the actual blade itself. You don't need to buy a million different attachments. I've had other face trimmers before where you have like all these different attachments. You got to keep them in a bag. All that stuff is annoying. It's on the Manscaped Beard Hedger itself, and you just turn the wheel, makes your life 1,000 times easier. And then you got the 41mm titanium coated T-blade for a comfortable trim and blade durability. The advanced lift comb, it lifts flatlining hairs for smooth single stroke trimming. You got a high power, high performing battery and 60 minutes runtime per charge. No one has a beard that fierce. And then it's waterproof, so you can smash that in the shower while you're washing yourself, and it just makes your life a whole bunch easier. And the Beard Hedger Pro kit, it comes with the Beard Hedger itself, the beard shampoo, the beard conditioner, beard oil, beard balm, free gifts, the beard brush, beard comb, and beard scissors. That is more beard accessories than you can shake a stick at. Isn't that right, Dennis?
That's right, man. And with Father's Day around the corner, the perfect gift. Just try opening that kit up. It's an amazing experience. The way the Manscaped are able to put everything into this amazing, beautiful box, and your father is going to absolutely love it, and you love it too. With 20% off and free shipping with a code word submission now, secure that gift for dad and blow his mind thanks to Manscaped.
100%. Also, UFC 292 Fight Week is here. And we all know, everybody here, obviously a UFC fan, you guys are looking out for the perfect venue near you to catch the fight live and loud. Fanzo, our good friends at Fanzo, is the ultimate venue finder for UFC and MMA fans, or sports fans in general. Simply head to the Fanzo app or website using the link in our bio, select the UFC 292 fixture, and you'll be greeted with a bunch of venues near you showing the fights. And the best thing of all, you can check out, for example, how many screens they have. Is there commentary? Is there a beer garden? What is the food like? All sorts of things like that. Is there deals, for example? You got the Asahi Check-In Challenge where you can even get a free beer. All sorts of good stuff like that. And then, of course, you got the quick links. So, like, let's say you find a venue, you can quickly hit one button. You can call them, maybe you can book a table, or you can just chuck on the maps and head straight there. Your best friend when it comes to finding venues for any sport. Isn't that right, Dennis?
Absolute lifesaver. Secure the spot, the perfect spot for you and the boys this weekend, thanks to Fanzo. Again, click that link in the description below and get started right now. But Tim, I know you just broke down how you and Sean are able to navigate and manage the sex, the drugs, the women, the parties, people trying to hang out with you. But I wonder, like, when you guys walk out of Boston TD Garden, which is known for being absolutely nuts. The crowd brings it every single time. I'm a Boston Celtics fan. They've pushed the Celtics to win on multiple occasions. They've also let the Celtics know when they were underperforming. The crowd is really a part of the story every time there's a sporting event in that venue. How do you manage that energy throughout the fight, the extra energy that's going to be coming at you and Sean as you walk to the octagon? Because we've seen that energy change people's game plans. We've seen that energy be too much for some people. We've seen that energy almost change things in a negative or a positive. What's your mindset on that kind of energy coming in?
Yeah, that's one thing about Sean, and that's one thing about you see about some of the greatest athletes in all sports. When the lights turn on, they show up. He knows how to be in the moment and not let like all the crowd and all the external stuff going on take over his mind. He knows how to be in the moment and focus on the game plan. And when the lights turn on, like I said, when it gets hectic and it gets loud and he cracks Aljo and he hurts Aljo, he's a performer, so he's going to stay composed, and we plan on cracking him and hurting him for 25 minutes straight. Like I said, he's very good at just staying in the moment. When he needs to be in the moment, he can bring himself right in that moment.
I want to end on this, Tim. You watched Entourage, right? Back in the day?
Yeah.
Yeah. How similar is your life to Entourage. I know you said you guys live a pretty boring life, but I'm sure it's not boring all the time. When I see you and Sean, I see two guys that are like brothers basically, and just doing it all together. And that's what I loved about that show. But I am curious, how similar is your lives at times to Entourage?
Once we go out, we're doing things, and Sean brings his fancy cars out, and we're doing stuff like that, which is pretty rare. It does seem like Entourage a lot, but most of the time, like I said, we're in the gym. Our camaraderie's in the gym with our training partners. We're doing our podcasts. We're finding something to compete in. We compete in jiu-jitsu. We come in there. We play different like spike ball, different games like that. So it's not really like Entourage, but when we go out, it's quite a bit like Entourage.
Yeah. The thing I took away from that show also is like, I think what every dude like envied, not only like, you know, all the women and the drugs and all the sex and all that stuff, but it's just like being able to live your life with the boys and share those same successes and just do it all together. So I wonder, like, given everything that you guys have been through and even like the sacrifices that you've made and, you know, coaching Sean, if Sean can go in there and win the belt, you said you don't know if he can, but if he can prove, you know, you guys right and all the work that you guys have done, not only this camp for years and years, what will that mean to you personally?
Yeah, I'm trying not even to think about what that's going to feel like, but I can't. I'm not even going to be able to put it into words. Right now, I'm just focusing on being the best coach I can this week, making sure his weight gets off, and making sure he's just feeling good and confident by the time fight night comes, and whatever happens is going to happen. But if we bring the belt back on the private jet, it's going to be fucking unreal.
Mm.
You know, I mentioned how you guys changed the game on the way to the title shot. Just quickly, I know a big question that's going to be thrown your way is Sean's statements about MMA managers and how he's also looking to sort of help change the game from that regard. He spoke about how unfairly managers take a percentage of win bonuses, how there's stuff going on behind the scenes that people don't realize. I don't know how much you can or can't say about this, but what is your perspective on what's been going on with MMA managers in the sport? Because I guess it's something even me and Casper and a lot of other people in the media don't really quite know about because we're not on that other side of the sport.
Yeah, I think every fighter's different. I think some fighters that don't know how to send emails or they don't know how to do super basic things, they need a manager to hold their hand and do every little thing. But I do think managers come into people's career pretty early on when they're 3-4-0, and there's just that dream of being in the UFC. But someone else, maybe the manager, the coach, can see that UFC is going to be coming. So the manager has them sign a contract really early on that gives away 20% of their money, and then 10% of their bonuses, whatever they make. And that person's just like, I just want to get to the UFC. I don't care. So they sign that contract and they get really stuck in deep with that person. And I don't necessarily think once you get into the UFC, you really need a manager that much. Some people do, I think, but a lot of people don't, because the UFC is going to offer you who they offer you, and they're going to send a couple emails back and forth, have your corners send in their license, do a couple emails back and forth, and that's what you're giving them the 20% for. So I think you just got to sit down and think, do I need a manager? And really be careful on what contracts you sign and really look over those contracts. It's easy to just sign the paper, but if you have a lawyer or someone you trust that can look over the contracts, it'll help you out a lot in the long run.
I think what fascinates me is it's like a fresh, you know, there's so many things to do with like fighter pay, right? It's always a topic in discussion. Jake Paul's always banging that drum. And then like the class action lawsuit sort of heated up as of a few days ago, and that's heading in a certain direction. So Sean's take is like a completely different angle, which is what's intriguing about it. I'm curious, like why now kind of thing, you know? And again, I don't know how much you can say, but like why now? What made Sean want to go out and say this? It kind of seems like he's trying to help like future fighters, but it's one of those things where like he didn't have to do that, you know what I mean? He's got his big fight coming up. He didn't have to do something that, like, I don't know, seems like a selfless thing, right?
Yeah, I don't know what kind of like legal battles he's going through. I'll try not to talk about it and talk about his business too much, but I know probably in the future he'll be able to talk about it a little more.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing that and the repercussion that it has through the sport, because yeah, it's definitely a difficult area for a lot of fighters. Do you think Corey Sandhagen is next if Sean wins the belt this weekend? I know you're focused on getting it done against one of potentially the greatest bantamweight champion of all time, but do you think he's next after that last win, or do you think it's somebody else?
If we get out of there healthy, I know Sean wants to fight in December in Vegas. He's really wanting to get on that card. And I think Corey Sandhagen that just came out that he's going to be out for at least 6 months with his torn tricep. So I think it will probably be somebody else if we can get out of this fight healthy.
Maybe the Cheetah rematch if you can get past Munoz.
Yeah. I can't wait for that fight. That's going to happen in the next couple fights for sure if Cheeto can keep winning. And that'll be a sweet rematch.
Awesome. All right, well, we'll get out of your hair, Tim. We cannot wait to see Aljamain Sterling versus Sean O'Malley this weekend, UFC 292. It's this Sunday in Australia, New Zealand. Make sure to follow Tim's excellent podcast, The Red Hawk Recap, The Timbo Sugar Show, and follow him at Tim Welch MT. Now, dude, thank you so much for jumping on, man. Always a pleasure chatting with you, Tim. Appreciate it.
Heck yeah. Thanks again, guys. I'll talk to you guys soon.